Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarvagurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with our discussion of Hari Bhakti Vilas, and we're in the second Vilas, and we just got finished the first system of doing the initiation, the Vaishnava Diksha ceremony. There's several systems which are explained, and after the first system was explained, there are 104 rules that the disciple or the student is supposed to follow, and the guru asks if he can follow these 104 rules. And some people say that if he can't follow these 104 rules, he shouldn't be initiated. And so we went through those 104 rules quite quickly, but in any case, we're going to continue on now. And so let's have a look at what the book says next. So here we have verse 178 ends up the 104 rules. The spiritual master should teach the 104 rules and regulations to his disciple. So hopefully the guru or the teacher has taught these rules, or whatever rules the teacher wants the student to follow. He can start teaching those rules even before initiation, during the time of examination between the student and the teacher. So text 179 says, thereafter, when the student and the disciple agrees to abide by these rules and regulations, the spiritual master should first have him worship the Supreme Lord and then recite the initiation mantra into his right ear. Okay? So we discussed about how the guru should sit and the disciple should sit and what directions they should face in order for the guru to speak the mantra into the right ear of the student. Sometimes we hear some different things. I think in the Bhagavatam, there's a mention of speaking into the left ear, spiritual knowledge spoken into the left ear. But in this case, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it says to be spoken into the right ear. So continuing on with text 180 of the second Vilas, the disciple or student should then cheerfully stand up and place the lotus feet of the spiritual master on his head with great respect and devotion. Okay, so actually, if we look in the Sanskrit, it says here, tasya utaya means stand up, but dandavat pranamayed, guru, right? It says, before it says place it doesn't say, it's obvious that if you stand up, you can't put the guru's feet on your head if you're standing. I guess unless the guru's standing on a ladder or something. I don't know how that would work. So obviously what happens is after the student has got the mantra from the guru and they're sitting while giving the mantra, the student should then stand up as a form of respect, right? But then he should do full dandavat pranams, astanga pranams in front of the guru, right? And then he should touch the guru's feet to his head, right? Or he can simply touch with his hands. But here it says that he's trying to say that he should touch his head to the guru's feet. The word murdani is given here, so murdani does mean head. So I think it would be appropriate if the guru also stands up, then it's easier for the shishya to then prostrate and touch his head to the guru's feet. That's very nice. After doing this, he should offer obeisance to the spiritual master by falling flat on the ground. Okay, so guru and disciple are sitting, giving the mantra, receiving the mantra in the right ear. And then after that's finished, the disciple stands up as a form of respect, and the guru stands up. The disciple pays his dandavat pranams and puts his head on the feet of the guru. Otherwise, if the guru is sitting, when the guru is sitting, his feet will be crossed like that. So there's a system when we offer obeisances, dandavat pranams, that we should touch the left hand, we should touch the guru's feet we should touch the left foot with the left hand, the right foot with the right hand. So if the guru is sitting, we should actually cross our hands and touch the guru's feet like that. If we're lying down in Dandavat Pranam. Otherwise, if the guru's standing, we can touch his feet. Is that right? Maybe it's wrong. Maybe I've got it wrong. Okay. So in any case, it's different for those two positions if the guru is sitting or the guru is standing because the guru's feet are crossed. Okay. So anyway, that's just an aside. That's not from Hari Bhakti Vilasa. That's just a sort of an etiquette that people follow in some parts of India. Okay, so let's continue on with text 181. Just remember, if there's any questions, just, or you want to add something about that. There's different ways of offering pranams, obviously. And but normally, like when we do deity worship, we do touch the deity's feet to our head, or we touch with our hands and then touch our head. So the act of surrender externally involves putting the highest part of your body at the lowest part of the body of the person you're surrendering to, either the guru or the Lord. So in text 181, thereafter the spiritual master should apply the nyasa to his body and worship the Supreme Lord in his mind. So just remember that the guru, before it was described, the guru did certain nyasas, the matrika nyasa and the pita nyasa, and then probably the other nyasas in between, which means there's nyasas for the Gopal mantra. He did those before he gave the mantra. He did those first of all on himself, right? And then afterwards, he did them also on the body of the disciple, and he taught the disciple how to do those nyasas, which we're going to learn in the 5th chapter, in the 5th Vilasa, which are done before doing deity worship, also before doing homa, before doing dhyana meditation or japa, or probably even before reciting scripture and teaching scripture. So, this is done and prior to Buddha Shuddhi, obviously. Buddha Shuddhi is going to be taught later on. Okay, so here, what's happening is the ceremony is over, right? But the guru still has to do something in order to retain his spiritual tejas, his Brahma tejas, his spiritual energy, right? The guru he's given the mantra to somebody, or he's initiated some disciples. So then the usual system is the guru, after initiation, does perform some more chanting of the mantra in order to preserve his siddha, his perfection of the mantra, his power of the mantra. So the guru then afterwards he also does the nyasas again on himself, meditates on the Supreme Lord. He should also chant the initiation mantra 1,008 times at the end afterwards in order to preserve his spiritual prowess. So the guru, we think of the guru giving the mantra, but we don't think also the guru should, after giving the mantra, he should also chant the mantra again, meditating on the Lord 1,008 times to retain his Brahma tejas, or his spiritual, Shakti, power. Okay, so continuing on, that's a very common idea. It's given here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Actually, it's interesting. Not so much Vaishnavas, but Smartas we see, especially in South India, they'll do nyasas before chanting a mantra. They'll do karanyasa and anganyasa, and even the mantra nyasa. The mantra nyasa always comes before the first, and then you do karanyasa and anganyasa, and then you do dig bandaha, close the directions so that you are insulated when you do the japa and the meditation. So afterwards, after you finish the japa and the meditation, then what the Smartas also do Pancha Puja also, which is a thing where they do Panchupacharas and meditate by just chanting the mantras for Panchupacharas. It's called Panchaputra. Lam Prativyatmani, Gandham Samarpayami, Ham Akashatmani, right? Rupam Agrapayami, like this. We can learn it later. I don't know if it's mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, but they do that. But they do that before and they do that after the japa. And the other thing that they do after the japa is they also do the nyasas after the japa again and do a dig vimokaha. So here it seems that they're also talking like that they should do the nyasas afterwards and do a dig vimokaha. Dig bandaha means to close the directions, and dig vimokaha means to open the directions again. So sort of like imagine he activates the mantric force shield around him, then he does the meditation and the japa, then he opens up the force shield after doing the nyasa again at the end. So that's just an aside. That's what smarters always do when they do dhyanam and japa. It seems to be mentioned here in that way, sort of in a sense. So that we also should understand that that's a possibility to do it like that. But normally, I've seen most Vaishnava Sampradayas, the people are not doing that. They don't do Digva Mokaha and do the nyasas again at the end. They just do it the first time. So, continuing on to text 182, the disciple should then offer all the articles that were used, such as the water pots, as dakshina to the guru or the spiritual master. Okay, so this is very common that when a priest or when a guru or somebody does a particular ritual for a yajamana, for a sponsor, and in this case the shishya or the disciple or the student is the sponsor of the ceremony. The sponsor wants to get the benefit from the ceremony. So he wants to take initiation. He wants to get the benefit of the initiation into the mantra from the guru and surrendering to the Lord. He wants that benefit. So he approaches the guru with that purpose. So at the end, dakshina is offered to the spiritual master. We already mentioned that. The student's supposed to give a certain amount to the spiritual master. There are different amounts mentioned, half or a quarter or a tenth of what there's a sloka there that says a tenth of what he owns. And that can differ. That can differ with if the student is, a penniless brahmachari, maybe he doesn't have anything to give, but he goes and begs alms for the spiritual master. Or if he's a wealthy householder, then it's another thing. So here, it's also mentioned that all the things which are left over from the sacrifice, any of the ingredients for the sacrifice, any of the utensils in the sacrifice which have been procured for doing the ceremony, these also can be taken by the priest, by the guru, or by a priest who's performing sacrifice as dakshina. As a dakshina. So he should worship the spiritual master and feed him along with the assembled brahmanas according to his ability. So after everything's over, and the guru has done his prayas, chanting and doing nyasa of the mantra, then they all sit down and they can take prasadam. They can take the Lord's prasadam and honor the prasadam. And the students should prepare and feed the assembled Vaishnavas, assembled brahmanas, and the guru. So continuing on, text 183. When the disciple is thus blessed by the spiritual master and the brahmanas, right? So after the food, the guru and the brahmanas, they might give another, or the Vaishnavas, they might give another blessing to the student, to the disciple who's just taken initiation. He should then take their permission and then sit down with his friends and associates who probably came as support to see him get initiated, right? And have his meal. So then he should sit down after finishing serving and after the assembled Vaishnavas and Brahmanas and the spiritual master have eaten, then he should sit down with his friends and associates, and then they should eat. So there should be like a one batch and a second batch of people who are eating this meal. So continuing on, 184. The fortunate persons who receive initiation in this manner from a bona fide spiritual master make their lives successful. They attain perfection. Good. So now continuing on, text 185 is from a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati in the Sammohan Tantra. The Sammohan Tantra is quite commonly quoted here, and it's an agama or a tantra, a Vaishnava tantra or agama. Actually, the word agama has a meaning that which is spoken by Shiva to Parvati about Vishnu is called Agama. There's one definition like that in the Shastras. So very commonly you find that you have Shiva talking to Devi or Parvati about the worship of Lord Vishnu. So it says, when a person takes initiation from a spiritual master by this process, all kinds of opulence come under his control. O fortunate one, meaning Parvati, there is no ceremony superior to the ceremony of initiation. So it's considered a very, very important ritual, right? Process. And Krishna certainly becomes pleased with one who takes initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. That's nice to know.
I have a question here. So how should we understand all kinds of opulence come under his control? I mean, does this happen like in which time frame? Does it happen next life? Because usually we don't see it these days. But we understand also, of course, that people are not taking this kind of initiation, or some Sri Vaishnavas are doing. Perhaps you have more insight, seeing different people.
Yeah, I don't, I think the vibhutayaha is the word here in the Sanskrit, probably. Vibhuti means the, opulences or, whether it's all kinds of, it's like, I'm not sure. Atta param tends to mean in excess. So I'm not sure exactly what's meant here by him having all these opulences. I mean, by Krishna has got all opulence, and the student has just been given the mantra, which is non-different from Lord Krishna. So therefore, in that sense, the student has all opulences because he has Krishna. Of course, we always had, Krishna within the heart, but we weren't able to contact him. And through the use of the mantra by the student, he's able to come in contact again with the Lord within the heart. And the Lord everywhere. He's everywhere. But Krishna is the master of all opulences. So once we take initiation, we come again in contact with him. And so therefore, there's nothing that he can't give us. Now, whether he gives us all material opulences and spiritual opulences is another thing. It's his divine will to give us opulence or not give us opulence. So we can say that by taking initiation, we take the first step. We take a very important step towards liberation, towards eternal service to the Lord in Vaikuntha. And so therefore, in that sense, we have gained all opulences in a sense. But whether we see those things manifested in this lifetime, whether we see material opulences or even spiritual opulences manifest in this lifetime, that's up to the Lord's will. So we don't really know exactly what's meant here. Maybe if we went to Samohan Tantra and we looked up this, we would see some more discussion about it, and maybe it would explain it in context. But just reading this text out of context and not knowing the full context in Samohan Tantra, I don't know. We can't really say. But as I said, when we get Krishna, we get the mantra, we get the Gopal mantra, that's Krishna. And so Krishna is full of opulences, so therefore we get Krishna who's full of opulences. That's an opulence. How that manifests externally, don't know. Okay, so okay. I don't know much more to say about that. Maybe let's continue on. Text 186. The previously mentioned process of initiation is described in Vedic literatures such as Prapanchasara. So there's a book called Prapanchasara, which explains this form of initiation. And remember, when we started the discussion on initiation, there were several different types mentioned. Now what we're going to do is we're going to perhaps look at some other types of initiation or some other methods of doing the initiation. This process is called tantriki, or it's done according to the agamas or tantras. Now the process of initiation according to the Puranas will be described. So there's Puranas and there's agamas, right? So there's an agamic system of initiation and there's a Puranic system of initiation. So now we're going to hear from we've heard from the agamas, Samohan Tantras and Agama, or Tantra, and now we're going to hear from, for instance, Varaha Purana is going to be mentioned here. In text 187, it says...
and sorry, this Tantra and Agama can be equated with Pancharatra?
Yeah, well, there are two main Vaishnava agamas, Pancharatra and Vaikhanasa. Vaikhanasa will not have this type of initiation because you have to be born in a particular gotra to follow Vaikhanasa agama. So it's when Krishna says in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, 27th chapter, that there's ways of worshipping me, the Vedic way, the Tantric way, and the mixed way, right? The Vedic way is Vaikhanasa agama. The Tantric way is according to Pancharatra agama. The mixed way would be to mix some Vedic mantras, some Pancharatric mantras, and some Puranic mantras, and it would be mixed, the mixed way. So really, unless we're born in that family line of the sage Vaikhanasa, we're not eligible to perform the Vaikhanasa puja. But the Pancharatra and the Purana, the agamic way and the Puranic way, we're eligible to do that. So it just depends on where you're taking the actual prayoga from, the actual procedure for initiation. If you're taking it from the Pancharatra agamas, like was quoted before from Samohan Tantra, or from Kramadipika, which is a Tantra, right? Then it's a Tantric or agamic system. If it's coming from the Puranas, then we call it a Puranic. There's not that much difference between them because neither of them use Vedic mantras. So they're all using classical Sanskrit mantras. The difference is only what exact Shastra it comes from. So for instance, in Pancharatra Agama, there are 108 Samhitas. Traditionally there are 108, but there are more than 108 actually. So maybe there's even 200 different Samhitas that are available. There's books on Pancharatra Agama. So then if you look in those different things in Padma Samhita, Ishvara Samhita, Satvara Samhita, Jayakya Samhita, Ahibhujna Samhita, there's initiations mentioned in a lot of them. Maybe not in all of them, but it's mentioned in a lot of them. And there's different forms of initiation mentioned in Padma and Satvara, like that, different procedures, right? They all involve some mantra and some of these elements of that we saw of a fire ceremony and worship of a kumbha and maybe sprinkling the disciple or doing nyasas on the body of the disciple. There's all these sort of elements in these different Pancharatric or Tantric initiations. So somebody might have had a type of initiation from Padma Samhita, mentioned in Padma Samhita, and somebody else might have had an initiation from Satvara Samhita. Usually that'll happen because the person is going to perform worship in a temple, and that temple is an ancient temple that follows a particular Pancharatra Samhita. Nowadays, what happens is that everybody who studies Pancharatra, they study mostly Padma Samhita because all of the new temples which are opened, right, use Padma Samhita. If you're going to open a temple now and install deities in Pancharatrically, you do it according to Padma Samhita, right? Whereas if you want to be a priest in Sri Rangam temple, you have to study Parameshwara Samhita. There are other Samhitas for Kanchipuram, Melkote, different temples. What to speak of the Vaikhanasans? They have their own Samhitas. Okay, so if you were to do puja in the temple of Sri Rangam, you would have to study Parameshwara Samhita, and there might be an initiation in Parameshwara Samhita specifically for the worship according to Parameshwara Samhita. So you would take that initiation. Whereas If you're just studying generally, Pancharatra in general, you take the initiation from that's recommended in Padma Samhita because that's the one which is used for all new temples. So here, we're not talking about following the original Pancharatras. So what we're doing is we're just taking, Gopabhata is just taking quotations from different places like Sammohan Tantra or Kramadipika, and he's just presenting them, and he's saying, okay, this is a procedure that you can follow, and it takes some things from this place and some things from that place, but and you put that all together and you get a procedure for doing initiation according to agamas. Now he's going to take other quotes from different Puranas, and he's going to make a Puranic method. So there are these two methods, and it's not like he says that you have to do one or the other, because in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there's no distinction between the person who has the right to do worship in the house and the person who has the right to do worship in the temple, right? The person who, because you're going to read in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, the person gets up and he goes to the temple and he does the worship in the temple. So anybody who's initiated in Gaudiya Vaishnavism can also do temple worship. And he can also do house worship. He can also do worship outside of the temple. So, but whereas in Sri Vaishnavism, you might be initiated and you might be able to do puja in your house. You might even be a guru, you might even be an acharya, and you could do puja in your house or outside of a temple, but you're not eligible to do puja or worship in the temple of Sri Rangam because you haven't studied the Parameshwara Samhita, so you first of all, don't know how to do it. And you maybe you need also a special initiation also to be able to do that temple worship because it's different and it's according to a certain agama. And there's different rules there that you have to know in different procedures. So there's a class in Sri Vaishnavism. There's a class of temple priests. There's a class of Vaikhanasa priests. There's a class of Pancharatric priests, and they're all trained in those different literatures, either Vaikhanasa or Pancharatra, according to the need of that particular temple. Whereas everybody else takes an initiation, which is derived from the Pancharatra literature, but is not directly coming from the Pancharatra literatures. So there are books like Nitya Grantha, which is a book by Ramanuja, and there are other books of rituals for the disciples, which have quotes from the Pancharatra, right? Which deal with the regular initiation that everybody takes. But that type of initiation, though it's derived from Pancharatra, is not the initiation you need to be a temple priest. Whereas in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, everybody gets just one initiation, and that's good for everything. That's good for you if you want to be a temple priest or if you want to be if you want to do worship outside the temple. So that's the main difference. And so here also we see that Gopal Bhatta says you can have a tantric initiation or you can have a Puranic style initiation. It doesn't matter. It just depends on the guru. The guru will decide what whether to give you. We'll see that there's a few different options for the guru, and the guru has these different options, and it can be a very, very simple form of initiation, or it can be a more complex form. So first of all, this is a general method in Hari Bhakti Vilas, and I agree with this system of teaching. The system of teaching in Hari Bhakti Vilas is first of all to take a subject and teach it in entirety, teach all the little details and teach it in a very complex way, in the most complex way that it could possibly be taught. With all the details, all the rules and regulations. We just got 104 rules and regulations. We know that there are people who get initiated. The guru doesn't tell them 104 rules and regulations. He tells them a few. He tells them 4 principles or something like that. So he tells them a few rules. But these 104 rules is probably the maximum that any guru is ever going to tell anybody in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So it's listed there because it makes the understanding of the subject full and complete. So when we teach people some subject, we want them to have a complete understanding of it. So we teach it in detail to them, because these people who are learning this, they should understand it in detail, in full. In practice, though, we might not use all these procedures, or we might not use all these rules, they can be adapted by the guru. The guru in practice may do an initiation ceremony or any ceremony in a more scaled down way, in a simpler form, right, with just the essence. So the essence of initiation is giving the mantra. So we're going to see later on where the guru can simply just give the mantra. That's all. All he does is give the mantra, and that's it. And that's considered initiation. So it very much depends. It very much depends on the guru, the time, the place, the circumstance, the disciple, the shishya, the student, what his ability to deal with the different situations, the rituals, the procedures, and, you know, it just depends. So here we're going to now learn a different system. And it's not that one system is better than the other system. It's up to the guru to employ a particular system of initiation. And if the guru, from one guru to another guru, look, in ritualism, you might look and two different people are doing the same sort of puja, but very rarely will you see people doing exactly the same way, the same puja. Sometimes you see them doing the same puja exactly the way, but you don't sometimes see it. So yeah, so let's continue on and let's understand a little bit about this Puranic system. So text 187, oh goddess, and again, it seems like somebody's discussing with a goddess. We're not sure which goddess is being addressed here, but oh goddess, now hear from me the process of worshipping. Again, it could be Shiva talking to Parvati. The process of worshipping the Lord Vishnu, the Lord of Lords. The process awards one wealth and children, and it destroys the sins of killing a Brahmin, drinking wine, stealing from others, or having intimate association with the wife of one's spiritual master, or associating with sinful people. So it's interesting because a lot of times these inducements will be given there for initiation. So the idea is in the scriptures it always induces you to do good things, and it gives you some reason also not to do bad things. So it says, so here he's saying, let's talk about this process of initiation in Varaha Purana to Lord Vishnu, because if you get initiated, it'll award you things like wealth and children, and it'll also destroy. It'll give good things, and it'll also destroy all the reactions to sins of killing a Brahmana or defiling the bed of the guru by sleeping with the guru's wife, or associating with sinful people, drinking wine or stealing from others. So these are inducements for the person to take initiation. You know, the most important thing is that from initiation is that we get the mantra, and that we're going to make spiritual advancement on the way to getting moksha or prema, or love of Krishna, and ultimately being with Krishna and serving Krishna eternally. So continuing on, as a result of worshipping the Lord by this process, the people who are poor, diseased, afflicted with leprosy, and devoid of influence can quickly achieve opulence, long duration of life, and mental satisfaction. So again, these things are all hyperbole in the scripture. They're saying to people, they're giving inducements to people. Why don't you take initiation? Because if you take initiation in the worship of Lord Vishnu, your life will be a lot better, even materially. So that's what's being said here. So continuing on, one who sees Narayana, the Lord of Lords, along with his consort Lakshmi, within the initiation arena. Remember, in the Yagshala, we conceive of the fire, the sacrificial fire, as being Lakshmi Narayana, or Radha Krishna, the Lord and his consort, and who, according to the instructions of the Acharya, worships the mantra form of the Supreme Lord within the 8 petals of the lotus flower which are drawn on the ground, certainly attains perfection of life. So Here, it's talking about having a certain type of a mandala. A mandala, like a yantra, is a geometrical design. Here with 8 petals of a lotus flower. And so here it's mentioned mandala, right? So in that mandala, Sodasa means 16. 16 petals. Nava nabi. Naba is navel. So Nava Naba can mean 9 in some senses. I think is the Nabi is the center, is the navel. Having studied about mandalas in Pancharatra, there is a mandala which is used sometimes in initiation in some samhitas where there are 9 lotuses. It's called Nava Padma Mandala. Now, I'm not sure whether it's only for utsavas or maybe it's also for initiation. The normal mandala, which is used in the Padma Samhita, is called the Chakrabja mandala. That can be used in installation. It can also be used in initiation. It's slightly different when it's used in initiation, when it's used in installation. But anyhow, here we're talking about, we don't know exactly. Maybe if we looked at the purport, we could go into more detail. But the idea is that to make a mandala and to invoke the Lord and worship the Lord in the center of the mandala, perhaps in the form, he says, mantra murtim, in the form of the mantra. Normally the mantra is not written on a mandala, although it can be written on a yantra usually, but not on a mandala. Mandala is different from a yantra because the yantra is usually for one deity. A mandala has many deities, and it's more like a form of the universe sometimes. So it may have many deities on it. Although we have exceptions too, like a Vastu Mandala would have many deities on it, whereas, and it seems to be like a Vastu Yantra and a Vastu Mandala seem to be similar or same thing. There's a lot of crossover between mandalas and yantras. So here anyway, it's describing that we draw on the ground a lotus flower with 8 petals, and that we somehow worship the Lord Narayana in his mantra form. Okay, so for the exact details, we could look at the Sanskrit. What verse?
There is the mention of Shodasha. This would mean 16, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Pujitam Navanabetu Shodasha Jvadale Tata.
Yeah. Sodasa. Dale means petal. We have to look up and see what Avja means. Why don't we just quickly look at the
So why is he then mentioning 8? I don't see 8 anywhere.
You don't see 8 in the Sanskrit. Dristva tu mandala Devi. So having seen this mandala, O Devi, was Devam Devya Samantata Narayana Param Deva Ya Pasyanti, he sees Vidanata Bhujtam Nava Nabi, new or 9 navels, to Sodasa see Avja. See, could be Avja or it could be Abja. Let's look at the Sanskrit. Okay. So the word Avja. So I think this is actually again some problem with the this shouldn't be a V. This should be a B, which is a problem because many times in Hari Bhakti Vilasa we see a B or V. It's transposed because many of the Hari Bhakti Vilasas that this was taken from was written in Bengali script in which that letter is the same, B and V. So we have Abja. Abja means a lotus. So Sodasa Abja Dale. It means 16 petal lotus. It means 16 petal lotus. So then this person has written down 8 petals. Okay. So right now let's look at the Sanskrit. See, so Varaha Puranokta Dikshita Vidi. Okay, Diksha Vidi. Okay, so 187, 188, 189. So if we look down here, this is the commentary. Okay, so we want 189, 190. So here it says, Sarvato Bhadra Adol. Okay, so it's supposed to be a Sarvato Bhadra mandala, apparently, which is a different type of mandala. It's a very common mandala. So this is giving more information. It should be a Sarvato Bhadra mandala. Darshana Prakaram Eva Vaha Narayanamiti. Nava Nabe Chakre. Shodasha Re Astapatre. So it says Shodashar Shodasharehe Astapatre. So both 16 and 8 are mentioned here. Okay? In the Sanskrit. So it could, so we're not exactly sure about it. It seems like there are 9 new, this is Nava Nabe, let me see. Let's look at the Hindi translation and see what it says. So here it says Nava Naba, 9 navels. So Sodasa Chakrame Kimva, or Asta Dala Padma. Sodasa Chakre. So there are these 16. It seems like there's a chakra. It's in the Hindi. It's saying there's a the chakra is there's a chakra of 6 with 16 points, 16 pointed star. Inside an 8 petal lotus. So it's a little bit unclear, but it is a Sarvato Bhadra mandala apparently, which is quite a common mandala. So we know what that looks like. We should just look that up. So anyway, let's go back to the original. There are elements here in the translation which haven't been given. So there is an 8 petal lotus flower, but there's also a 16 pointed star and some other things, right? 9 navels or new navels or whatever it is. Okay, so we're not exactly sure about this. We could have to look at different mandalas. We can look at a Sarvato Bhadra mandala. I mean, it should have said here Sarvato Bhadra mandala, but there may be different types of Sarvato Bhadra mandalas. In fact, there are different types of Sarvato Bhadra mandalas. This particular one I'm not familiar with, but we can look at different mandalas sometime and work out exactly which one this is. So anyway, continuing on, text 191, 192, he's going to say about when one should take initiation. So it's recommended that one should take initiation on any Dwadasi. So Dwadasi is considered a good day, a good lunar day, because Ekadasi, obviously, you're fasting, you're worshiping the Lord. So the appearance days of the Lord, all these sort of days, the Vaishnavas tend to exclusively worship the Lord, and therefore they don't do these initiation ceremonies on those days. So here it says Dwadasi, which is a good day, because although it's interesting, because if the students are going to come to the initiation ceremony fasting, they have to break the fast on Dwadasi first. So if you're going to get initiated on Dwadasi, you have to, first of all, if you're fasting on Ekadasi, then the next day you have to do the Ekadasi Parana, you have to eat something. But then if you were going to be initiated on that Dwadasi, you could then start fasting that after breaking the fast in the morning, and then fast that evening, which you have to do anyway on Dwadasi. You're not supposed to eat more than once on Dwadasi. One time on Dasami, one time on Dwadasi. So you would break the fast and then start fasting again to be initiated. The guru would then start in the afternoon. The first session of the initiation would be in the afternoon, continuing on the next morning to the second session of it, which you continue to fast. The student would continue to fast and then break his fast again from the initiation on Dwadasi on the Trayodasi. So then he says, especially the Dwadasi in Kartik, which comes in the waxing moon of Kartik. So anybody who knows anything about Muhurta, auspicious times, knows that usually it's preferred to do things, auspicious things, in the light fortnight, in the waxing fortnight of the moon. Sometimes, of course, there's, for instance, Amavasya is the new moon. There's no moon. So that's for the Pitris. That's for doing things to do with Shraddha or the ancestors. So except for ceremonies that have to do with Shraddha and the ancestors, auspicious ceremonies are done usually, you try to do in the waxing fortnight of the moon. Of course, there's all sorts of examples of auspicious times that don't come in those times. But as a general rule of thumb, we try to do things in the waxing 2 weeks of the moon, the waxing fortnight. And during Kartik, it's very, very auspicious. So there's going to be Kartik Mahatmya in Hari Bhakti Vilasa later on, explaining the glories of the month of Kartik. So here it's specifically said in this particular place in Varaha Purana, it's they've given this idea that one should try to be initiated on a Dwadasi, and if possible in the Dwadasi of the waxing moon of the month of Kartik. And they're going to give a Mahatmya or a glorification of that. O auspicious one, O fortunate one. A person who sees Lord Krishna being worshipped by his spiritual master during a solar eclipse, or when the sun enters the sign of the zodiac, which means solar eclipse means can happen at any time. But this Surya Grahana, if you worship the Lord if you do this initiation ceremony like in a solar eclipse, that's also very good. Or when the sun enters a sign of a zodiac, which is called a Sankranti on that day, right? Immediately becomes happy and all his sinful reactions are eradicated. So here are some days. Dwadasi, any Dwadasi, especially the Dwadasi in the waxing moon of the month of Kartik, or during a solar eclipse, or on any Sankranti, right, which comes once a month when the sun goes from one house of zodiac to the other. These are all good days to do this initiation, this form of initiation from Varaha Purana. So continuing on, text 193, there's no doubt that such a fortunate person becomes as worshipable as the demigods headed by Lord Brahma. Text 194, the spiritual master should carefully examine for 1 full year the nature and activities of his prospective disciples who may be Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Sudras. So this is just hearkening back to that discussion about the guru should, the teacher has to examine and test the disciple and the student has to also test the guru before accepting each other, and then after they accept each other, then they can do the initiation ceremony. So, text 195, 196, the spiritual master should decide whether the prospective candidate is qualified for initiation or not. The disciple should also serve the spiritual master with love and devotion for 1 full year, while considering him to be as good as the Supreme Lord or honoring him in that way. In this way, he should please the spiritual master throughout the year. Text 197. The disciple or student should pray to the spiritual master or teacher as follows. O Lord, by your mercy, I desire to attain prosperity in this life and become delivered from the ocean of material existence at the time of death. So that's the prayer, one of the prayers that the student can go to the guru with, that he ultimately he wants to get free from this cycle of birth and death. He wants to get moksha, liberation. But it's interesting here that he also says that he, wouldn't mind also having some prosperity in this time also. Okay, so continuing on. Text 198 and 199. An intelligent disciple should first pray to his spiritual master in this way, and then worship him just as he would worship Lord Vishnu. So this is a nice situation here where the student comes and performs Guru Puja, worships the spiritual master, and then with the spiritual master's permission, the disciple should take a twig from the Chira plant. Not exactly sure what a Chira plant is. We can look in the dictionary. Just quickly, Chira plant. Chira plant, is it mentioned in the Sanskrit here? Yeah, okay, so I was spelling it wrong in the dictionary. Okay, a Chira plant is, Chira actually means milk, so it's a plant which has some milky sap. There are several plants containing milky sap, and it gives the Sanskrit swallowwort or the gigantic swallowwort, and there's also some Latin names of the plants, but we're not going to go into that. So anyway, it seems like it's some sort of plant that has some sort of sap, right? Taking a twig from that on the 10th day during the waxing moon of the month of Kartik, he should put this twig in his mouth and lie down on the floor right in front of the deity. That's interesting. Okay. Right, and this is to be done on the 10th day. Does it say that here? 10th day? Dasam, yeah, it's the 10th day of Kartik. Okay. All right, so that's not sure about that. Maybe that's a sign of surrender to the guru, that you put a twig in your mouth and you lay down, you do the Dandavat Pranam to the guru like that. I was also thinking there's some initiation ceremonies like Chakrabja Mandala Diksha where the student has to brush his teeth with a twig and throw the twig, and whichever direction the twig lands after the toothbrush lands, they have to do Prayaschitta Homa for particular different directions that it lands. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. It seems to be just praying. The student prays to the guru to give him initiation and then falls flat before him. Now here it's saying to do that on the 10th day, but now you're going to do the actual initiation on the 12th day. So it may be that you start this whole procedure on the 10th day and then follow the Ekadasi Vrata, and then maybe start the actual ceremonies that we saw. Basically took 2 days previously. In the previous system, you could start that on the Ekadasi evening and then finish it on the Dwadasi morning. Or, like I said before, it could start on the Dwadasi morning and finish on the Trayodasi. We're not exactly sure what they're going to say here, so let's continue on. Okay, so this seems to be, now they're going to talk about dreams. Okay, the reason they're talking about dreams and twigs here, this is very much like the Chakrabja Mandala Diksha. What you do is you sleep overnight in the Yagshala, or the disciple or the student will sleep overnight in the Yagshala. The guru may even sleep there also. And whatever dreams that the shishya has, the student has, he reveals that to the spiritual master, and also when he wakes up, he cleans his mouth with a twig. So it seems to be talking about that, because that's how we do the Chakrabja Mandala Diksha. And then, if the disciple had a dream at night, he should disclose it to the spiritual master. According to the dream, the spiritual master can determine the disciple's future benefit. What they do is they hear what the dream is, and according to what the dream is, there's certain prayaschitta homas that have to be performed by the guru. Thereafter, on Ekadasi, the disciple should fast, and the next day he should go to the temple after bathing. So this is giving us more understanding about how the actual process gets done on Dwadasi, but it starts on Dasami. So it starts on the 10th day, continues through the 11th day, after the student is sleeping in the Yagshala overnight, and the guru probably also, and then having a dream on the night of the Dasami, right? Then performing the Ekadasi Vratam, in which he's going to stay up all night. He's going to stay up all night and not go to sleep on the Ekadasi. And then he's going to actually be initiated on the Dwadasi. It's a really good program here. If you did like this would be an excellent program for doing an initiation. So let's see. Then he goes to the temple after bathing. Okay, if the spiritual master is very learned, then he should draw a diagram, right, on a purified piece of land. So a purified piece of land means that what you do is you take bricks, and at least one brick high, it could be higher than that, but you make what called a standila, or you make a place on which to make the mandala with rice flour or whatever, or whole rice, colored rice. You're going to make a mandala, right? So the guru is then going to draw this diagram, which is either Sodasa 16 or Navanaba Chakra. Navanaba Chakra. Navanaba Chakra, it seems to indicate there's a Pancharatric chakra like this, nine lotuses. There's 9 lotuses in this mandala. It's like that. I'll find a picture of it and show it to you later on. Okay, so continuing on, or a lotus flower having 8 petals. Continuing on with text 203. Thereafter, the spiritual master should carefully wrap a white cloth over the disciple's eyes, and after placing some flowers in his hand, bring him inside the arena. Okay, this is exactly describing Chakrabja Mandala Diksha. It's exactly describing Chakrabja Mandala Diksha, because what they do is the guru, it's not mentioned here, but the guru ties the disciple up with a triple braided rope of kusha grass. So you get this kusha grass rope, which has got 3 strands of kusha grass woven together, and you tie it around, or it can be 3 strings of different colors, red, yellow, and black, or yellow, red, and black, or white, red, and black, representing sattva, rajas, and tama, guna, right? And you tie the disciple up, right, with this, and blindfold him, right? And sometimes this is called the Maya Sutra. And sometimes this is done the day before, and the disciple is supposed to actually sleep tied up. And then that's why he has these dreams. He may have this particular dream because he's tied up. But then the next day, or what happens normally these days, what happens is they put the Maya Sutra on, and the blindfold, they take it off, and then you sleep. And when you get up the next morning, they put it on again, and the blindfold. The guru cuts off the Maya, after doing nyasas and different things, the guru is going to cut off the Maya Sutra from the disciple, showing that he's freeing him from Maya, from the different gunas, right? Material gunas. And then with the blindfold in place, they give him a jasmine flower, or 1 flower in the hand, and he drops the flower onto, after there's some rituals and some mantras to chant and everything, he drops the flower onto the mandala, and wherever the flower drops on the mandala, there are different deities of Vishnu which are invoked in different parts of the mandala. The disciple then gets a name as a servant of one of the deities that's there in the mandala. So when he drops when you drop you're blindfolded and you drop the flower, it lands in a particular place, and wherever that place is on the mandala, a particular form of Vishnu is invoked there, and therefore the guru knows to give a particular name to the and that's sometimes that's done. That's a secret name, which is not revealed to others, but only maybe revealed to other initiates, but not revealed in the public. So somebody may have a regular name, he's known, but he has the secret initiated name as well. So this is what's happening here. And it says here, Varnanukramata means, Varna means Varna means letter of the alphabet. Anukrama going in different orders and things like that. So there might be, I don't know, this particular mandala might have some letters written on it or something like that. I don't know. That's possible. But anyhow, with the blindfolded, when he drops the flower, then it indicates something about the in Chakrabhasha Mandala Diksha, it's how you get the secret name, but in some other dikshas it may have some other purpose. We're not sure. Okay, so continuing on, it says the spiritual master should then decorate the initiation area with 5 kinds of colored powder. Okay. After this is completed, he should worship Indra, the predominating deity of the eastern direction. Okay. Seems straightforward. He should then Lokapalam. He should then worship Agni in the southeast corner, Yama in the south, Niriti in the southwest, Varuna in the west, and Pavana in the northwest corner. So going around clockwise, he starts off with the east, and then southeast, then south, then southwest, then west, then northwest, and continuing on, the north, worshipping Kuvera in the north. So he's worshipping the Dikpals. Here it's called Lokapal, but it means also Dikpal, the directional deities, right? And then Rudra in the northeast. So once he's done that, he's come back around, he's gone all around clockwise, worshipping, till he comes back to the east. And Rudra in the northeast is the last that he does. In this way, after properly worshipping these demigods or devatas, he should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, in the middle of the lotus. So what's being described here is the worship of the mandala. There's a particular mandala there, and you have to invoke different deities on the mandala. So whether this is done before the student drops the flower on it or not, isn't really said. It seems to say here the student should drop the flower first, and then this mandala should be done later. Maybe this is a different mandala also, we don't know. But normally there's just one mandala, and it's worshipped first and invoked first, and then afterwards the student drops the flower on the mandala. But it may be that way or it may not be that way exactly. It's difficult to sort of understand because this is not what's being described here as different rules that have to be applied in different procedures, but it doesn't necessarily tell us exactly the order of the procedures. If you have a book which is a prayoga, it tells you the exact order of the procedures, whereas sometimes when you just read things in sloka form, it doesn't give us exactly the method, the prayoga from a samhita, or from just the verses. We can't always figure out exactly how the procedure is done. But an expert person, the guru knows, because the guru has experience and he's gone through this before. He himself was a student, so he also took initiation like this, so he knows how to do that. So it may be that sometimes in the scriptures, things are written in such a way that they're a little bit cryptic. And only if you actually see them being done do you understand, oh, okay, that's what they mean. That's why it was written like that. But just by reading it without a guru, without a teacher telling you how to make it into a procedure step by step, you don't get it. So we're not, Hari Bhakti Vilasa is not a book like that, which is step to step, step by step. What it is a bunch of rules and slokas and quotations from different scriptures all put together saying to do these things, but exactly in what order and step by step is not given. So what we have to do if we want to do that actual ritual is we have to make another text, which is a prayoga, which is more like a cookbook, which takes you step by step through the procedure. Okay, so anyway, in the middle of the lotus, you worship Lord Vishnu. We should notice here the first method of initiation, there was a pot in the middle of the mandala, but this doesn't seem to have a pot. When you have the Chakrabja Mandala Diksha, you don't necessarily have a pot in the middle. You may have a kurcha in which you invoke Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayana or Krishna. It depends on exactly how the worship is done. So continuing on to 207, it says, after the spiritual master the spiritual master should worship Sankarshana in the eastern leaf, Pradyumna in the southern leaf, Aniruddha in the western leaf, and Vasudeva in the northern leaf. Okay, so if you started at the north and went round clockwise, it'd be Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, which are the four Vyuha forms of Lord Vishnu, which are sacred to, in Pancharatra, there's a system of 5 forms of God. The first form is the original personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha Loka, and expanded from him are the Vyuhas, and the Vyuhas are Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. We can also note that these are also different names for people in Krishna's family. Vasudeva means Krishna, Sankarshana means Balarama, Pradyumna is the son of Krishna, Aniruddha is the grandson of Krishna. So not only are these forms of Vishnu in Pancharatra, but also in the Mahabharata, these are names of the family members of Lord Krishna. So anyway, they are worshipped or invoked. When we invoke them, we would say something like Om Sankarshanaya Namaha, Avahayami Stapayami Pujayami, and we would invoke Sankarshana on the eastern petal of the eastern, it says here eastern leaf, patre means leaf, the eastern leaf of this particular mandala. I would suggest it's probably a petal. There might be 8 petals in a lotus, but 4 of them are in the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, and that's what we're talking about. Okay, so continuing on. After worshipping the conch shell in the northeast corner, the disc in the southeast corner, we have a square outside of the lotus. In the northeast, if we start from the north, then we go round clockwise. We go Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then if we have we have the corners, because the directions, the southeast, north, southeast, and west, are in the sides. So in the corners, starting from the north and going clockwise, you first of all come to the northeast. Between the north and the east is the northeast. So there will be a depiction of a conch shell. So the conch shell, Panchajanya conch shell, will be invoked there. And then continuing around to the southeast, which is the Agnayam direction, you will have the disc or the Sudoshana. Continuing on to the then it says the club in the north, the lotus in the northwest, and the plow in the southwest. Garuda in the south, the spiritual master in the middle, Lakshmi on the left of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is there, and on his left is Lakshmi, right? Okay. and the bow, trident, mark of Srivatsa Kustuba in front of the Lord. And one should worship Lord Janardana according to the prescribed rules and regulations. Okay, so this is a description of a different mandala, and on the mandala also it's going to say that there are different places, different symbols of the Lord, and different places where we worship the different aspects and weapons of the Lord and consort of the Lord. And then after worshiping the Lord, one should place 8 water pots in the 8 directions. So in the 8 different directions, you place kumbhas, and there's a 9th kumbha which is put in the middle. So whether this is put on top of the mandala or whether this is put in a separate standila, we don't know exactly. But here we're going to have 9 water pots. So in the first system of initiation, there was 1 water pot. And in this one, we have 9 water pots. So here we have, continuing on to 212 to 217, those who desire liberation from material existence should be bathed with the Vaishnava Kumbha. The Vaishnava Kumbha means the Vishnu Kumbha, probably, the one in the middle. Those who desire material happiness should be bathed with the Indra Kumbha. The Indra Kumbha is the one in the east. Those who desire victory should be bathed with the Agni Kumbha, which is in the Agneyam or the southeast. Then the one who wants to conquer death should be bathed with the Yama Kumbha, which is in the south. Those who want to destroy enemies should be for the Nairitya Kumbha, which is in the southwest. Those who desire to their enemies to be bathed, to destroy their enemy, should be bathed with the Nairitya Kumbha. What do we say? That was the southwest, right? Those who desire peace should be bathed with the Varuna Kumbha, which is the west. Those who desire to counteract sinful activities, the Vayu Kumbha, which is the northwest, right? Right? Those who want material prosperity should be bathed with the Kuvera Kumbha, which is the north. Those who want to gain knowledge should be bathed with the Raudra Kumbha, which is the northeast. Okay? So there's all these different pots with water in them. And according to the desire of the student, the guru is going to use water from a particular pot to bathe the student. By accepting this process, all these persons will be relieved of their sinful reactions, attain transcendental knowledge, and become prosperous. Then, what can be said of those who are bathed with the water of all 9 kumbhas? So, maybe the guru is going to take all the water from all 9 and bathe the student. So this is going to be a big bathing, sort of like what is called Udika Shanti. There are different sets of Vedic mantras. Udika Shanti is a big set of Vedic mantras which is used for purifying water for a samskara, a Vedic samskara. And then Punyavachanam is a smaller ceremony or a shorter ceremony for doing the same thing. And then just a simple Kumbha Puja or worship of a pot, Kalasha Puja, is for the same thing. So here we have these nine pots being worshipped very elaborately, and used to before we talked about the worship of the Lokapals in the different corners. So my feeling is, right, I'm just going to tell you, is that these pots were actually installed before, and the different Lokapals, the different Dikpals, masters of the different directions, were invoked in each of these pots and worshipped at that time. That's probably what happened, right? But they don't mention it in that order. They mention, first of all, worshipping the Dikpals and then somehow putting the pots. But in my experience, the pots will be there from the very beginning, and you'll invoke the Dikpals in the pots. Okay, so so what to speak of bathing? We can bathe the student with all the pots. Yeah, so why not? Such a person becomes purified at once and attains a position similar to that of Lord Vishnu. When we think of ourselves as being completely pure, it's called Buddha Shuddhi. We do the Buddha Shuddhi, and mentally we consider ourselves to be completely pure, because only something which is completely pure, a completely pure servant, can worship the completely pure master. So this is also another meditation that we have. Sometimes the smartas call this ahangropasana, self-worship. So, but actually it's not self-worship, it's just understanding that we are a minute fraction or portion of God, of God's spirit, and therefore we are also spiritual in nature, and we are therefore like God. We're not God, of course. We're like God because we're made in, as they say in the Bible, we're made in God's image, and so we're a spark of the fire. So this is the idea that the disciple, by going through this bathing with the 9 pots, becomes purified, completely purified, on the way to being initiated. Okay. So here we have, and normally that's what will happen, is the bathing of the disciple will happen right before the guru gives the mantra to the disciple. But it may happen at some other time. But in the Chakrabja Mandala Diksha, the Acharya Abhishekam, or the Kumbha Abhishekam of the student, happens right before, and after that happens, the student is given the mantras. So number 218, one may also worship the predominating deities of the various directions while chanting their respective names and performing the prescribed rituals. Okay. No. After worshipping, text 219 and 220, after worshipping the predominating deities of the directions, the spiritual master should invite the prospective disciples who have been tested and whose eyes are covered with white cloth. So they're all blindfolded. And he should then describe to the disciples who have been purified by the chanting of Agni, Vayu, and Varuna mantras, the various rules and regulations. So while they're blindfolded, the guru gives them all the rules and regulations that were given before, the 104 rules and regulations, or whatever rules and regulations the guru wants to tell them that they have to follow by taking initiation, right? And then Agni, Vayu, and Varuna, right? Again, we have the process of Soshana, Dahana, and Plavana, which the guru is performing on the shishyas, on the disciples. So instead of Agni, Vayu, and Varuna, it should be Vayu, Agni, and Varuna, because first of all comes the Vayu. Yam Vayavena Maha Soshayami, Ram Agni Maha Dahayami, Vamamitana Maha Plavayami. Okay, it's the system for first drying up the body of the disciple, then burning his body, and then nectarizing his body, creating a new spiritual body for the disciple out of nectar, or immortal body, right? Okay, this is all mentally done by the guru with using those mantras. Yam Vayavena Maha Soshayami, Ramagdana Maha Dahayami, Vamamitan Maha Plavayami. It's not the exact method of doing it here is not described. I'm just telling you the exact method. But what is being described here, that is what's being described, for sure. Okay, so then continuing on from text 221 to 225. The spiritual master should instruct the disciples to never blaspheme the Brahmanas, demigods, Lord Vishnu, Brahma, Rudra, Surya, Agni, the Lokapalas, the presiding deities of the 9 planets, or senior Vaishnavas. Rather, they should offer respects to everybody. The disciples should gladly accept these instructions. Thereafter, the spiritual master should perform a fire sacrifice and purify the bodies of his disciples by performing the nyasa, as we did in the first initiation, right? So we don't have to repeat that. We know how to do the fire sacrifice. It's mentioned in the first method. The agamic method, we know how to do the nyasa, which is going to come in the last 5. But anyhow, the starting with the mantra nyasa and ending with the pita nyasa, and maybe probably the nyasa for Gopal mantra in between, or whatever other mantra is being given in initiation, right? Then the spiritual master should perform the fire sacrifice while chanting this 16-syllable mantra. So, right, we didn't, in the previous system, they didn't actually give us a mantra to use in the fire sacrifice, but here it's mentioning the mantra that should be used in the fire sacrifice. Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Swarupine Hum. Let's see if that's Vishnave. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate, it's right there in the sloka. Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Swarupine Hum. Somehow or other the B is snuck in here. Hum, and then Swaha. Right? Soda Sakshara Mantru, this should be Mantruna, I think. Right, so is it sort of Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Vishnave Swarupine Hum Swaha. Okay, so if I chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Swarupine, Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Swarupine, that's 16. So it's mentioned here, Sorasakshara mantra. Sorasakshara, it's a 16-syllable mantra. According to Om Namo Bhagavate, if we just look at Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Swarupine, Hum and Swaha, we just leave those off for now, but up until the end of Swarupine, it's 16 syllables. He should offer oblations 3 times to the Supreme Lord using this mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Swarupine Hum Swaha Vishnave Namama, right? And perform all the other required rituals. Okay. Then the spiritual master should then uncover the eyes of his disciples and make them sit in front of the sacrificial fire and then impart to them the initiation mantras. So somewhere in there, if while they're still blindfolded, they're going to drop the flower onto the mandala. Homante means at the end of the homa. So let's have a look. After the fire sacrifice is completed, an intelligent disciple, this is verse 226 and 227, should give dakshina to the spiritual master. So that was the same in the first method. If the disciple is as rich as a king, he should offer an elephant, a horse, jewels, gold, and other valuable objects to the spiritual master. If the disciple is of middle-class background, he should offer a dakshina accordingly. And if he is from a poor family, he should simply offer a dhoti and a chadar, a new dhoti and chadar to the spiritual master. So it's very common at initiation that you offer the guru a dhoti and a chadar. If the guru is a grihasta, a dhoti and a chadar, and you'll offer a sari, a new sari for the wife of the guru. It's very common. So no matter how rich you are, you can also add those things to whatever gold and jewels and horses and things elephants that you're giving to the guru. So text 228, it's impossible to describe the piety and glory of one who obtains by following the above mentioned procedures. So you get unlimited piety and glory by performing this type of initiation. By following this, yeah. So both the guru and the disciple are both going to benefit by they're going to get piety and glory by doing this. If after the initiation the disciple hears the Varaha Purana from his spiritual master, he attains the result of studying all the Vedas and Puranas, chanting all kinds of mantras, as well as bathing in Pushkar, which is one of the sites for the Kumbh Mela, right? Prayag, Gangasagara. Prayag is the confluence of the Triveni at Allahabad, near Benares. Gangasagara is in Bengal, where the Ganges meets the Bay of Bengal. Naimisharanya, which is a holy forest, where the forest itself is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Kurukshetra is another holy place where Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And Kashi. Kashi is, of course, Benares. Same thing, very similar to Prayag, very close to Prayag. So the idea is, because this is being spoken to us from Varaha Purana, this is being quoted by Gopal Bhatta from this procedure from Varaha Purana. It says that if you hear from Varaha Purana after you take this type of initiation, then you attain the result of studying all the Vedas and taking all and chanting all kinds of mantras and bathing in all these holy places. So this is a Mahatmyam coming at the end of the section telling how to do this particular Puranic type of initiation. So continuing on with text 231, 234, it says, the result one achieves by chanting mantras during a solar or lunar eclipse is doubled if an initiated person hears the Varaha Purana. So this Varaha Purana is very important. We can also note that there's a very special mantra prayer given by Varaha called Varaha Charma Sloka, which is actually 2 verses that coming in Varaha Purana. So Varaha Purana is an important Sattvika Purana for Vaishnavas, and therefore if you hear this, the mantras that you chant during a solar or lunar eclipse, which becomes magnified many, many times, actually becomes double that times if you hear the Varaha Purana. A maintainer of living entities, the demigods pray to be born in the land of Bharatavarsha, which means Greater India. They pray to be born in Bharatavarsha, become initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, hear Varaha Purana and other Puranas, and visit the sacred places where the Varaha Purana is being recited. They also pray to be able to witness the Varaha Yajna, the Varaha sacrifice, whatever that is, on the full moon day of the month of Kartik. So what it's seemingly saying is that this narration is actually called the Varaha Yajna form of initiation. So it's nice. So we continue on with text 235 to 236. O sustainer of the world, I have thus briefly described to you the procedures for initiation. It's very rarely practiced even by the demigods, Gandharvas, and Yakshasas. Okay, so this is just finishing off the section from Varaha Purana of the Puranic type of initiation, and it's said to be quite a rare procedure. O goddess, it is said that anyone who understands this subject matter, who sees an initiation arena, yagshala, who hears the sacred instruction will attain liberation. So just by understanding this subject matter, or seeing the yagshala, or hearing about this instruction of how to do this, you attain liberation. Good. It's so powerful. The next section is about Sangshepta Diksha, or a shorter Diksha, shorter form of Diksha, right, than these ones that came before it. It says here a summary of initiation, but what it really is Sangshepta means a shortened form, and there are going to be several shortened forms which are going to be described.
What's the reason for having different kinds? Is it just for a different purpose, I guess, in the end, like a different type of liberation, or? Well,
there are in the beginning of this section, it was described. So it's mentioned that there are these different forms of initiation. We know that there's the tantric, the agamic, and there's also the Puranic so far. But in the beginning, there was talk of them being divided in a different way. There's a Kriyavati, there's a Kalavati. The question was, why are there different types of initiations, or what are the different types of initiations? So right in the beginning of the second chapter, text 34 and 36, when it talks about building the yagshala or the mandapa, then it also describes that there are 4 types of initiation: Kriyavati, Kalavati, Varnamayi, and Vedamayi, right? So Gopalpada specifically says here that he's going to describe the Kriyavati type of initiation. Now, if we read other books like Samohan Tantra, or this Sarada Tilaka, or even maybe Kramadipika, we might find that these other ones are mentioned. So there are tantras, there are agamas, where they mention these other types of initiation. We're not exactly sure about them. But Varnamayi seems to have to do with different syllables of the mantra. This is also described, I remember reading it in Sharada Tilaka, but I'm not sure if it gives any further explanation. So I'm reading from Patala 4 of the 4th chapter of Sharda Tilaka Tantra about this. The initiation will be described, without which the goal of the mantras cannot be achieved. Since it is the illuminer of knowledge and destroyer of sins, it is called Diksha by Tantric scholars. The 4 kinds of Diksha are Priyavati, Varnamayi, Kalatma, and Vedamayi. The 4 kinds of Diksha are described in the order. So, Yajamana shall take bath according to the agamic instructions, and after finishing his morning duties before noon, shall enter the Yaga Mandapa, or Yagshala, being well dressed and silent. He has to do Achamana, and next Samanya Agya will be explained. And then sprinkling of water on the Dwara or door with the Astra mantra, and then he shall perform Dwara Puja. Vigana and Mahalakshmi shall be worshipped in the upper threshold of the door, and on the right of the door, Vigana and Chetresha, right, are to be worshipped. On other parts of the door frame, Ganga and Yamuna shall be worshipped with flowers and water. And in all cases, the doors, Astra Puja shall be done. Om Chaha Astraya Put Namaha is the Astra Puja mantra. Then Deshikendra, in brackets the Yajamana, which should mean the Guru, the Deshikendra, shall avoid the celestial obstacles and atmospheric obstacles by super knowledge and Astra water, respectively. By 3 heel strikings on the ground, all types of obstacles should be avoided. Touching a little the left threshold, the Yajamana shall cross the door. Okay, so this is very, very complex here. I'm just going to go on a little bit. I'm just going to see if it's describing any of these different forms of initiation. It says it's going to describe those different ones. Perhaps this is the color. The first one is the Kriyavati. So this seems to be the Kriyavati system. And then the Kalavati system, let me see if I can find one where it describes that. In the 5th chapter, it starts talking, after doing a certain number of things, start talking about Kalas. I'm not sure if that's a reference to Kalavati, which would be the second form. And then it continues on with Varnamati Diksha. Varnatmika Diksha is explained. In the 5th Patala, after verse 116, it then describes Varna, and then after 126, it describes the Vedamayi Diksha. So it does describe all these 4 in the Sharda Tilaka, as I said. So perhaps we can do this next time. We can have a full understanding from Sharda Tilaka of these 4 types of initiation. I think we'll cover it. Sharda Tilaka, okay, which is also, by the way, quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So it's not like this book isn't quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. This is also quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So you have to remember just one thing before going. So you have to remember that Gopal Bhatta Goswami had read a lot of different shastras, and he was also expecting the people to read his book, that they should be similarly quite learned people. So when these 4 types of initiation are mentioned, probably the people who read this, who are reading this, know something more about different Tantra Shastras, and they've heard of these types of initiation before, and they can probably say, oh yeah, right, that's there in Sharda Tilaka. I know that. I know about that already. So, but to be clear, he seems to be suggesting Kriyavati as the predominant form to be used in Gaudiya Vaishnavism or in Vaishnavism according to him there. He's not saying that these other forms are not to be used, but for a fuller understanding, we will next time look at Sharda Tilaka and we'll understand the 4 types.